Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Jimmy Mathis Show. School's back in session for the most part, unless you live in Baltimore City or parts of Baltimore County. State looking good here in the state of Maryland. Not able to perform one of its most basic fundamental roles. But anyway, moving forward. Judge Brett Kavanaugh, hearings beginning on Capitol Hill today in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Really no surprise on what took place.
That means this committee is in the dark as to what specific documents are being withheld and why. We don't even know what is being hidden. Such a move is simply incompatible.
The reality, ladies and gentlemen, is we already know what the roll call is going to be, at least with the Democrats. It has been made abundantly clear that Judge Kavanaugh will not receive one Democratic vote in his confirmation. Which is ironic when you consider that Donald Trump, for all the problems that so many people think that Donald Trump brings to the Oval Office, Donald Trump picked arguably one of the safest candidates for the high court, which is Judge Kavanaugh. And you look back over, I know, Kelly, there's some documents they haven't gotten to see yet, okay, which they released actually this morning. Does anybody honestly believe that there's any sandbagging going on with the background of Judge Kavanaugh? Does anybody honestly believe that? Keep in mind, next to securing the borders, one of the focal points of Donald Trump's campaign was replacing Justice Scalia, one of the more conservative justices on the Supreme Court. And he did. And the left is very nervous right now. Keep in mind, it's the left that implemented the nuclear option where you only need a simple majority right now for confirmation. We're playing by their rules right now, ladies and gentlemen. If they did not implement the nuclear option, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now. And what Donald Trump did was pick a very safe pick. Kavanaugh, by all expectations, should sail through the confirmation process in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. The purpose of this committee is to make sure that there's no ethical violations, that he is a nominee of good character, and there really is no ambiguity in that. This is grandstanding and nothing more. Now, is this sour grapes left over from Eric Garland with Barack Obama when Obama was a lame duck president to replace Justice Scalia? Maybe. And by the way, the Republicans were wrong on that. And at the time, I was very outspoken. Keep in mind, Donald Trump is not a lame duck president, but that really doesn't matter. The Republicans were wrong. At the time, President Obama was still president of the United States. And they should have called the roll, called the vote, and let the chips fall where they might. It's very outspoken about that. So this may be some sour grapes left over from the Obama administration. But regardless, let's go ahead and call the roll. And it's funny because I remember for roughly 6 years the Republican Party being labeled the party of obstruction. Anything President Obama wanted to do, the Republicans were the party of obstruction. The party of obstruction. We're not hearing that rhetoric right now, are we? Not at all. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the confirmation process because this will drag on for days and nothing of any real significance is going to happen today other than the grandstanding, which is expected, which, by the way, is why Congress has an approval rating that's constantly tinkering around single digits. And at the end of the day, I bet you dollars for donuts that Judge Kavanaugh will be confirmed. And I'm not really sure what the net gain is from the Democrats out of this grandstanding. Although I guess I've never really understood what the net gain is from grandstanding when it comes to politics, other than to get your name in the papers. But I don't think it's in the papers in a very positive way. And I think the more that you beat up on this guy, the better he looks at the end of the day. He brought his kids to his confirmation hearing, and they were escorted out of the chamber. It looks petty. It looks foolish, especially when you have well-qualified candidates. And this actually speaks to a larger problem in politics right now that I've actually experienced firsthand. When everything becomes personal and there's no advice and consent, when politicians aren't doing their honest due diligence when it comes to a confirmation process, when everything is personal and self-serving, and on the flip side, when everything with someone that is trying to seek a high office or public service is going to have personal attacks levied against them and their family, the other question, guys, is who wants any of these jobs? And if the best and the brightest don't want to be public servants, what does that mean for us as a society moving forward? And Judge Kavanaugh has served this country well and honorably. And honestly, this should be pretty much a rubber stamp confirmation process. Now, I understand that Democrats are nervous because Kavanaugh is a very young guy. And if he were to go the distance of Ginsburg, he could be on the court for another 3+ decades. And it does shift the power of the high court. And with this confirmation, which again I'm pretty sure will happen, the next one in line is Justice Ginsburg. And the reason why I say that is her vote no longer carries the weight that it has in the past. Again, with the balance of the court being shifted. It is very possible, ladies and gentlemen, within Donald Trump's first term, he could have 3 Supreme Court appointments. That is not beyond the realm of possibility. And keep in mind, we are still 2 years out from a midterm election. Put all the rhetoric and the fake news and everything else aside right now. If you look at history, most presidents, for the most part, go 2 terms. And remove the media out of it, Donald Trump is hitting on a lot of key factors right now. Starting with his first Supreme Court appointment. Starting with his stance with the military, tax cuts, rolling back EPA regulations, nixing the individual mandate, renegotiating free trade deals, taking the boot off of the American economy and letting it thrive. Minorities are doing well, doing better under Donald Trump. Take the rhetoric out of it for a second. The reality is the reality. The market continues on a bull run, minus Nike. We'll get to that in 1 second. And his message is landing, and unlike most politicians, whether you like his rhetoric or not, he is delivering on basic campaign promises. And making sure that we have conservative, solid justices on the high court was one of them. Didn't know he was going to get 2 in his first term. Forget his first term, his first 2 years. Keep in mind the Democrats right now that are grandstanding against this guy, same party that implemented the nuclear option, that allowed President Obama to flood the lower courts with activist liberal justices. Before you get to the high court, you go through the lower courts. Nobody's talking about that right now. There was no counterpoint for the Republicans when Obama was flooding the lower courts with activist justices. And they decide what goes to the high court. So go ahead, Democrats, play your games right now. Because Kavanaugh, at the end of the day, and everybody knows it, will be confirmed. However long you want to try to delay this. And I think he'll be a great justice. Rough day on Wall Street, at least if you were a Nike shareholder. This is unreal. Nike coming out yesterday saying that they were going to incorporate Colin Kaepernick into the Just Do It campaign. Here's what I do not understand, and anybody that's listened to me knows my stance on the kneeling thing in the NFL, so I'm not going to regurgitate all that. Well, I may for a second. But the NFL already has its hands dirty. They've already muddied the water. It's their problem. They got to figure out how to solve it. Between Kaepernick, the Ravens, the policies that they've implemented, then taken back, and then implemented it, the memo that Jerry Jones sent to his team saying that any player, any anybody in the organization that does not stand for the national anthem will be fired. I don't care if you're the janitor. I don't care if you're the starting quarterback. That all of a sudden he's taking a knee after Donald Trump comes out and says that if the players take a knee, the bums should be fired. It's back and forth. It's been very inconsistent. But again, it's the NFL's problem. Nike doesn't have a dog in this fight. And whatever side of the kneeling issue that you're on, can everybody agree it's toxic? Not talking about a fan. Whether you're for Kaepernick, against Kaepernick, and it's not even he's not even playing anymore. But he's the face of the movement, I guess, for lack of a better term. It's the NFL's problem. Why would you jump into a political nightmare? Sorry, not a political, well, it is a political nightmare, but a PR nightmare. Why would you voluntarily jump into that? Nike stock got crushed today. Afternoon trading, it was down almost 3 points. Why would you do that? Especially with such a prestigious brand as Nike. On an unrelated note, Under Armour was up. Not sure if that was a seesaw effect. I don't follow Under Armour on the market day to day, but sure is coincidental. You have brands out there that are just marquee, powerhouse, juggernaut brands. Coca-Cola would be a great example of this. It's an old joke in advertising, right? The battle has been going on for decades between Pepsi and Coke. And the old joke is Pepsi will never beat Coke. Doesn't matter what happens. Coca-Cola is just the creme de la creme when it comes to branding. Heinz Ketchup is another one. Old joke. It's the Coca-Cola of condiments. Nike is the Coca-Cola of sportswear, of apparel. The swoosh. Why would you attach something that, at the very least, is going to alienate half of your market base? When you're predominantly selling to athletes and people that are, in fitness and you have a fairly crappy athlete, which at the end of the day is what Colin Kaepernick is. Remember, guys, the 49ers were going to cut him before the kneeling thing. He went to the Denver Broncos. They weren't going to renew his contract. Denver Broncos offered him roughly a 38% haircut. He turned it down because he was offended. Then the kneeling thing happened, and all of a sudden, that's why he's been disenfranchised. Then the Ravens double down with it in London and keep the thing trucking. And the league, Goodell has been weak from the very beginning. He doesn't know what to do with it. Ad revenue down, television ratings down, butts in the seats down. I have a personal story with this. I've already told it a million times. I have PSLs, a bunch of them with the Baltimore Ravens. Wasn't able to sell them, wasn't able to renew my tickets after the stunt in London. So I'm especially bitter because those bums cost me thousands and thousands of dollars. And they just sucked on the field last year. And I could care less about the Ravens right now. Is it partly because of the kneeling? Sure, absolutely. Is it partly because they cost me a ton of money? You better believe it. But it's funny because, I really didn't pay much attention to the kneeling thing, even with the Kaepernick deal, until last year when they took the knee over in London. And I was in Ocean City. I did the radio show from Ocean City during Sunfest. And I remember watching the game at Secrets. They took the knee, and the reaction in the room I will never forget. And at that point, I knew that the NFL had hit a bee's nest, even if they didn't realize it. And they did. Especially when then they played the Queen's anthem, and the Ravens didn't know there was going to be another song. They didn't know what to do with that. And I went on the air, and I said, the problem is sports is one of the things where we can escape, get away, put the troubles of our lives on the back burner for a few minutes. We don't want to worry about politics. We don't want to worry about all the worries of the world. That's not why we go to a game or we tune in. We enjoy the healthy distraction. I'm not a huge sports fan. I'm a novice fan. I enjoy going to a few games. I enjoy rooting for the home team. But I'm not a diehard fan by any means. When they did that, they kind of just sucked the fun out of it for me. And honestly, I talk about it every now and then, but I've kind of put the kneeling and the Kaepernick thing out of sight, out of mind, because I don't have a financial interest in the Ravens anymore because of what they did in London. And then I'm reading the wires yesterday, and I see that Nike signed Kaepernick for the Just Do It campaign, which is obviously their theme. And it's not just Kaepernick. There's, I guess, a series of athletes. And Kelly, I don't have the ad in front of me, but it's a shot of Kaepernick's face, and it says, when you believe in something, you sacrifice everything. I may be paraphrasing, but that's the gist of it. The end line is you sacrifice everything. No, you didn't. Nike paid you millions of dollars, you hypocritical bum. If you were really down with the struggle, you wouldn't take any money if you sacrificed everything. If that's going to be the wording they're going to use on the ad when you believe in something, you sacrifice. Now, you're a sucky quarterback that wasn't going to have his contract renewed, that was too arrogant to take a lesser deal, that then basically destroyed a multi-billion-dollar brand, and now you're capitalizing off of it from an endorsement deal. So you're a hypocrite. But I thought about this last night, and I said, look, I don't know if he really believes in police brutality and the racial injustices, social injustices, and all that. I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I'm 40 years old. Is there still a level of racism in America? We have 330 million people. Sure, absolutely. Is there probably some issues with the justice system? Yeah. Is there probably some still systemic racism in America? Yeah, there probably is. But the part that I had missed until yesterday with Kaepernick signing with Nike and looking at the outrage on social media, and not just on social media, it spilt over to Wall Street today. Investors sold Nike stock because of it, because they believed that Nike was damaging its brand by associating with Colin Kaepernick. But I got back to the race thing, and I thought, for the most part, at 30,000 feet, I think this country is doing better when it comes to race. One-on-one, I think we're doing very well. When we start to self-segregate from one another, that's where some people start to show their true colors. And if you're going to live in a free and open society, unfortunately, the price of admission means you're going to have some jerks, especially if you're going to embrace the First Amendment and people get to say and act and feel what they believe within the confines of the law, and making sure that they do not infringe on the freedoms and rights of another. You can't assault anybody. You can't break the law. But I got back to what was so great about sports beyond just getting away from the normal annoyances in your life. Do you know where there's very little racism and everybody's united? That was at M&T Bank Stadium. Everybody's high-fiving each other. Everybody's rooting for the same thing. And it was a question I used to ask all the time. What is a nation? What is a country? And I ask people that question. They think it's a trick question, but it's really not. And it's not limited by borders. It's people that share a common goal, heritage, history, dreams, aspiration, music, religion for the most part. It doesn't mean everybody falls lockstep, but generally speaking, collectively speaking. And I do believe in diversity, and I do believe that different ideas make any organization stronger. So I'm not saying that, ladies and gentlemen. But would you not agree that a country, an organization, a family is not stronger when it's united? And that's the great thing about sports. You have a common bond with people that you do not know. And I missed it, and I think maybe it may be a subconscious thing that I think a lot of people are missing on this kneeling thing. It's not even about patriotism necessarily, or the flag necessarily. What these players are doing, and they don't realize it, and now the thing's more from kneeling to the fist in the air, which is black power. What they're doing is they're contaminating a sanctuary where people go not just to escape the problems in their own lives, but societal problems. So even if everything that Kaepernick is standing or kneeling or whatever he's doing for, in his mind, is legit, he's actually being very counterproductive to the overall cause. Because during those 3 or 4 hours when everybody's united, they're united together. And you go to a game, any game, any sport. Demographics change on sports, but the underlying the point that I'm making here doesn't change. I don't know, maybe there's more white fans in the NFL stadiums and more black fans in the NBA stadiums. I've been to NBA games, okay? You know what? I'm a Knicks fan. I'm high-fiving with everybody standing next to me. I'm a Wizards fan, too. I don't care about the color of their skin, and for the most part, nobody in the arena does. And that's why sports, even though I'm not necessarily a huge sports fan, I do believe that it plays such an important role in our society. Because it's one of the few things right now that still unites us. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, those are few and far between. We can't even agree on a language right now. And for those on the left, and I'm just saying the left because that seems to be the portion of the electorate that seems to embrace Kaepernick's message here, I would think more than anything you want to get to a post-racial society. So when you have 3 or 4 hours at a time where that exists, why on that stage would you want to contaminate that pool? And and that's the problem with polls, by the way. You can take Kaepernick out of the equation. Let's say that you're a minority that has been assaulted by the police. And what Kaepernick is selling, you can absolutely relate to. Still doesn't change the fact that where he's doing it is the absolute worst place possible. It's the worst place possible. If he's sincere. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Frankly, I don't care. I don't care about any of these guys anymore. And I think the Ravens are going to be in for a rude awakening this year. And I will repeat to them what I have been saying for the last year. They better make good to the fans. Scratch that. The PSL owners, the investors. It'd be interesting if you were to combine how much money Kaepernick has cost the American economy because of his protest against the struggle. When you look at lost TV revenue, when you look at advertisers, PSL owners, when you look at the market cap loss with Nike stock today, and I'll tell you something about that. The CEO at Nike should be fired. The board of directors should strip him, put in a new CEO at Nike. It's the same thing with the damn Ravens. Same thing. When, as a head of an organization, when you do something that you know is going to absolutely affect your investors, your shareholders, your PSL owners, your advertisers, where you have, if not legally, at least ethically, a fiduciary responsibility to be a good steward of that money, and you intentionally do something where you know you're going to damage the brand, hurt the value of the stock, make PSLs worthless, make the tickets worthless, hurt the ratings of the game, hurt the advertisers. When you deliberately do that, you should be out of a job. Even more so than the bum players, who are very selfish, by the way. Very selfish. Very selfish. They could care less about the game. They could care less about the next generation of player. They don't care. And the problem with the Kaepernicks of the world and the Baltimore Ravens and the rest of them, even with all of the societal problems that may still somewhat exist in this country, America still offers the best path for success for every American. And there's no place else like this on the planet, where when you embrace capitalism, you are able, at least in theory, within your own determination and God-given talent to a certain extent, be whatever you want to be. And that's why from the very beginning I have said multi-million-dollar athletes that are making a king's ransom to play a kid's game, it's the wrong spokesperson for the struggle. It just is, even if they truly believe it. And I've known a lot of professional athletes over the years. I've worked with a lot of them. And a lot of them are very good people, and a lot of them do a lot of very good with their money. And they don't get enough credit for it. So I'm not saying that they're bad people, but they're the wrong spokesperson. And now I'm just looking at this from a business standpoint. And the NFL, just by the law of averages, you would think at some point, even by accident, they would make a right move on this. They haven't figured it out. You have networks that are turning the cameras off during the national anthem, which is hilarious because Donald Trump won. He shut off the protest, and the players are too stupid to even figure that out. Trump won that one. And now you have Nike, a Fortune 500 company, one of the best brands in America, that jumps into controversy for no reason. By the way, I'm thinking this as I'm going along. Tiger Woods was endorsed by Nike. I'm almost positive of that. And they cut Tiger, didn't they? When all that was going on? When Nike's number one demo is men and Tiger was fooling around, didn't they cut Tiger? Because it was bad for the brand? See, this is the hypocrisy that bothers people. Nothing will upset a customer, a voter, more than hypocrisy. Which is why nobody takes Colin Kaepernick very serious. And the outrage that you're going to see with Nike right now. But to sit here and just look at this for a second, I just find this fascinating. I'm sorry. I find business fascinating, and I really find messaging and branding and rhetoric fascinating because it's what I've done with my entire life. In some way, shape, or form, I've been involved in branding, messaging, advertising, rhetoric, sales. They're all interchangeable. They're all the same thing. To sit here and have a brand like Nike and to not only deliberately screw it up, but pay money to do it. So I'm not going off on a soapbox tangent on the CEO should be fired. Should be. By the board of directors, who answer to the shareholders. And they had the final vote in all of this. Now, I don't own Nike stock. I never have. But I respect the company. I understand the power of Nike. But if I'm a shareholder, keep in mind that news broke after the market closed yesterday. Like, what are you doing? And then the stock plummets 3%. On that. Not because they came up short in, third quarter earnings, or because of something that the company deliberately did. And here's the other thing. If the company really believes that the struggle is real and social injustice and they hate the cops and all the stuff that Kaepernick stands for and, death to America, blah, 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 the same reason why it was a mistake for the NFL to do it on the stage that is the field. To go ahead, take some money and donate it to whatever cause that you want. You don't incorporate it into the swoosh or swoosh, whatever it is. Okay, but you don't incorporate it into the brand. And that's what they're doing with Kaepernick. And now they're stuck with it. And they paid probably millions of dollars to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, we will keep an eye on the confirmation of Judge Kavanaugh. See you back tomorrow. Follow me, jimmymattheshow.com. A little house cleaning. For those of you that follow the show on SoundCloud, we are getting a lot of positive feedback on the show. We are growing exponentially to the point that we blew through our storage limit on SoundCloud, so that will be fixed in the next day or two. Of course, your number one destination should always be jimmymattheshow.com on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter at Jimmy Mathis Show. Of course, iTunes and all the usual suspects to get the program. Everybody have a wonderful day. See you tomorrow. Bye.
I turn on Fox News and then CNN, but it's the same dang thing all over again. The world's in the toilet and the market's in the tank. Well, I can't fix that. No, but I can fix a drink, pour it on ice, mix it on up and get you feeling right. I can get you buzzed, I can get you smiling, I can make you feel like you're sitting on an island. I can make it fruity, or I can make it strong. All you gotta do is tell me what you want. Put it to your lips, take a little sip, and tell me what you think. Yeah, I can fix a drink.